I was sitting at home when everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in some ruined city full of zombies. I had no idea what happened. I barely made it into an abandoned supermarket and locked myself in a second-floor office behind a security door. Then a voice spoke in my head. It said I was a chosen challenger in an apocalypse world. I had to find supplies and fight zombies to stay alive. A strange screen appeared in front of my eyes, like a video game with a backpack, a chat, a trading window, and mail. My backpack was empty. I hadn't eaten or drunk anything all day. I was starting to panic. Then I got a message. Something called the Infinite Resource System had bonded to me. A bottle of water showed up in my backpack with a little infinity sign on it. I pulled it out, and another one appeared. I kept pulling out bottles until the whole office was full of them. I couldn't believe it. Every day, the system gives me an unlimited supply of one item. Today it was water. I checked the chat channel. Hundreds of thousands of people were here, all dropped into the same city. Everyone was scared and confused, just like me. Some had already seen people get bitten and turn into zombies. I opened the trading platform. People were selling food and small items, and they all wanted water in return. That was exactly what I had. I started buying everything: bread, noodles, pasta, a lighter. My inbox kept buzzing with notifications. But then people in the chat started talking about me. They could see my number, 10086, on every trade. Some thought I was a game insider trying to steal their supplies. I got nervous, but at least the numbers only showed during active trades. I kept trading. Water for food, then food for other useful things. Pretty soon I had enough to open a small shop. I sat down with a hot plate of spaghetti and some orange juice and ate while scrolling through the platform. The one thing I couldn't find was weapons. No knives, no bats, nothing. I figured anyone who had a weapon would keep it for themselves. But it was only the first day. I told myself that in a few days, when people got desperate, more stuff would show up for trade. I went downstairs to search the supermarket for supplies, but found nothing. Then, in the restroom, I spotted a wooden box by the sink. I opened it and got 10 pieces of wood and a rope. Not much, but better than nothing. The faucet was fake, no water. I was heading back upstairs when I heard loud banging on the supermarket door and someone screaming outside. "Is anyone there? Please open the door. Zombies are chasing me." I walked to the entrance and peeked through the gap. There was a woman outside, and she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life. I didn't open the door right away. I asked who she was first. She said her name was Xianchi. She looked scared and desperate. She told me she had been out there all day with no supplies and begged me to let her in. She even said she would do anything to repay me. I thought about it for a moment. Then I grabbed some wooden planks from my backpack and opened the door. She rushed in, thanking me over and over. But before she could settle down, I hit the back of her neck and knocked her out. I shut the door, tied her up with my rope, and carried her upstairs to the office. I know it sounds harsh, but I couldn't take any chances. In a world like this, trusting a stranger could get me killed. When she woke up and realized she was tied up, she started panicking. She yelled at me, saying what I did was against the law. I almost laughed. Law? In a world full of zombies where anyone could die at any second? I crouched down and told her straight. I didn't know if she was a good person, so I had to be careful. She got angry and dared me to untie her. I told her she was in no position to bargain. She finally calmed down and told me she was a doctor. That got my attention. A doctor could be very useful in this world. I offered her a deal: stay with me, and I would give her food and keep her safe. But she had to sign a loyalty contract. She refused. I wasn't in a rush. I had no reason to hurt her, but I wasn't going to let her go either. Not yet. So I sat down and started eating a sausage right in front of her. I could see her swallowing as she watched. I teased her a little, telling her I could tell she had a good heart. Her face turned red with anger. After I finished eating, I asked if she was hungry. She snapped at me, telling me to stop mocking her. I opened a bottle of lemon water and held it to her lips. She was too thirsty to refuse. She drank the whole thing. Then she realized what I had done. Lemon water just made her even hungrier. She accused me of doing it on purpose. I played innocent and told her the lemon water was my favorite, and sharing it showed my sincerity. I told her all she had to do was nod and agree to my terms, and I would give her a full meal right away. She was furious. She said she would rather starve or get eaten by zombies than accept anything from me. I just smiled and asked if she was sure. She screamed at me to get out. It looked like Xie Anshi wasn't going to give in anytime soon. I figured I would let her go hungry for a few days. If she still refused to cooperate, I would throw her to the zombies. In this world, I couldn't afford to keep someone useless around. That night, I took off my clothes and hung them up, leaving just my shorts. Xie Anshi panicked and pressed her legs together, demanding to know what I was doing. I told her to relax. I wasn't going to waste energy on anything unnecessary when supplies were this tight. Then I lay down on the sofa, pulled a blanket over me, and fell asleep. She had to sleep on the floor. I don't think she slept at all. When I woke up the next morning, I looked over and almost laughed. She looked like a panda, pale face, bloodshot eyes, dark circles everywhere. She was too tired to even respond. I offered her a sandwich. Her stomach growled so loud I could hear it, but she turned her head away. I gave her a thumbs up for her stubbornness. Then I ate the sandwich right in front of her, making a big deal about how delicious it was. After breakfast, I checked my system mail. Today's unlimited item had arrived, 9mm bullets. My heart raced. Unlimited ammo was huge. But without a matching gun, the bullets were useless for now. I spent the whole morning searching the trading platform for a weapon, but found nothing. At lunch, I sat next to Xie Anshi eating fried rice. She asked me weakly to please not eat right beside her. I ignored that. Then I complained the rice was too greasy and dumped the rest in the trash. She snapped. She couldn't believe I was wasting food. I offered to give her some if she wanted. She just glared at me and closed her eyes again. I could see her swallowing from the smell alone. I thought to myself, let's see how long you can keep this up. I opened the chat channel and scrolled through the messages. By day 2, some people had already adapted and were going out to fight zombies. Many others had already been killed. Then I spotted a message that made my heart jump. Someone was selling a P92 pistol. I messaged the seller right away. He wanted 100 bottles of water and 100 portions of food. That was way too much. I bargained hard and offered 10 bottles of water and 10 pieces of bread instead. There was a long silence. I started to worry I had gone too low. But then he replied, "Deal." I knew the gun was worth way more than that. But in a world like this, most people just didn't have enough supplies to trade. I got lucky. We made the exchange through the trading platform, and the pistol arrived in my mail. Finally, I had a real weapon and unlimited bullets to go with it. When I opened the mail, there it was, a P92 pistol. My hands were shaking a little as I held it. It was heavy, and for the first time since arriving in this place, I felt safe. I opened the window and started shooting at the zombies on the street below. My aim wasn't great, but with unlimited bullets, it didn't matter. A few of them dropped. The gunshots woke up Xie Anshi. She stared at me in shock. I just smiled and whispered to myself, finally, I don't have to be afraid anymore. Then something new happened. A voice in my head told me I was earning experience points for every zombie I killed. I opened a new panel and saw my stats. Level 1, Strength 10, Agility 3. Apparently, I could level up like in a video game, and my body would get stronger each time. But that also meant something scary. If zombies had levels too, then stronger ones could show up later. Ones that could break into this supermarket. This place wasn't safe forever. I checked my backpack. I had the pistol, a military knife, some Molotov cocktails, smoke grenades, and a few iron rods. Honestly, only the gun and the Molotovs were useful. I wasn't brave enough to fight zombies up close with a knife. One bite, and it would be over. I climbed up to the roof. The view was perfect for sniping. I picked a safe spot and started shooting zombies from above. They were slow and mindless, the lowest level. They roared at me, but couldn't reach me. My experience bar kept climbing. After a long time, I suddenly felt something burst inside me, like a lock breaking open. My body felt lighter and stronger. Level 2. Strength 12, Agility 5. For extra points total. I could feel the difference right away. I was faster, my reflexes were sharper, and the gun felt lighter in my hand. I went back downstairs to the office. Xie Anshi was crawling across the floor like a caterpillar. 2 days without food had pushed her to the edge. She was hallucinating. I took out a hot plate of fried rice. Her eyes locked onto it instantly. She looked like a starving wolf. I helped her sit up and sat down in front of her. I asked if she wanted to eat. She didn't answer, but her stomach growled loudly. I gently held her face and opened her mouth. I paused for a second. Even exhausted and pale, she was still beautiful. She frowned and asked what was wrong with me. I didn't answer. I scooped up some fried rice and put it in her mouth. She chewed and swallowed without thinking. The taste almost made her cry. Then she snapped back to herself. "Don't think I'll give in to you," she said. I calmly scooped up another spoonful and held it out to her. "Want another bite?" She was so hungry that her mouth opened on its own. But right before she could eat it, I turned the spoon and put the rice in my own mouth instead. I closed my eyes and smiled. "Wow, delicious." Xianqi was furious that I teased her with the food. I told her she could eat as much as she wanted once she agreed to join me. Then I sat back on the sofa and finished the fried rice. I wasn't being kind when I gave her that one bite. I wanted her to remember the taste so the hunger would hit her even harder. It was cruel, but that was the point. She looked like she was about to cry. For a moment, our eyes met, and I felt a little guilty. But I pushed that feeling down. In this world, being soft would get me killed. I made her some sugar water and helped her drink it. She was too weak to sit up on her own and ended up leaning against me. I sighed and asked why she was so stubborn. "I just wanted a teammate." She asked me my name. I told her, Chendong. Then she said, very seriously, that if I let her go, the first thing she would do is make me pay. I laughed and told her that if that was her plan, I definitely couldn't let her go. That night, I told her to rest. She snapped at me to be quiet. The next morning, she wasn't moving. I couldn't tell if she was asleep or passed out. I checked. She was still breathing. I leaned in and joked that if she didn't wake up, I might have to give her a full checkup. That worked. She opened her eyes and told me to go away. I gave her water mixed with glucose and warned her to stay quiet while I was gone. She laughed coldly and said even as a ghost, she wouldn't forgive me. I joked back that I was born to deal with female ghosts. After breakfast, I opened my system mail to see today's unlimited supply. I couldn't believe it. I rubbed my eyes and looked again. It was an unlimited supply of small umbrellas, condoms. I burst out laughing. What was I supposed to do with these? Fill them with water and throw them at zombies? I showed one to Xianqi and asked if she knew any other uses for it. Her face turned red and she called me boring. But then she actually gave me a useful answer. She said the rubber could work as a bandage or be inflated as an airbag. Filled with water, they could even be dropped on zombies from above, though they probably wouldn't do much damage. That got me thinking. Bandages were rare, so a rubber substitute could really help. And if we ever needed to cross water, I could maybe make a small raft out of inflated ones. Today's supply wasn't as useless as I thought. I listed a few hundred on the trading platform and went up to the roof to keep shooting zombies for experience. During a break, I checked the platform again. To my surprise, they were selling really well. People were trading food and water for them. I was confused. These people would rather skip meals for this? Then I opened the chat channel and understood. Apparently, someone at a nearby community was offering a very special kind of trade for supplies. People were rushing to find her location. Others were begging for food and offering to do anything in return. I shook my head and kept eating my bread. The chat channel was going crazy. Turns out the reason my supplies sold so fast was because people were trading them for personal services. I stayed quiet. In a world like this, some people had no choice but to give up their dignity to survive. Then a thought hit me. If Xianqi couldn't survive on her own, would she end up the same way? I shook the thought off. I could barely keep myself alive. I went back to shooting zombies from the roof. After more than 10 hours of fighting, I finally reached level 3. Strength 15, Agility 7. My arms were sore, but it was worth it. While eating crispy noodles and browsing the trading platform, I found a pistol silencer for just 10 bottles of water. I bought it immediately and attached it to my P92. Now I could shoot without making as much noise. Then I noticed something. A guy with yellow hair was sneaking into my supermarket. Before I could react, I heard Xianqi screaming for help upstairs. I rushed down with my gun ready. The guy was on top of her, tearing at her clothes. I shot him in the shoulder, then in the leg. He fell to the ground crying and begging, calling me his grandfather, his ancestor, anything to save his life. But when I thought about what he almost did to her, my anger boiled over. I raised my gun and ended it. I stood there staring at the body for a long time before snapping out of it. I went to Xianqi. She was crying hard. I untied her, left her clean clothes, and walked out to give her privacy. After she changed, I handed her 10 portions of food and water. She frowned and asked what I meant. I told her I was letting her go. From now on, her survival was up to her. Then I walked out of the supermarket without looking back. 2 people had found this place in 3 days. It wasn't safe anymore. I had to move on. But then I heard footsteps behind me. It was Xianxi, following about 30 meters back. I stopped. She stopped. I walked toward her. She walked away. I gave up trying to understand and just let her follow. This went on for half a day. At noon, I sat down to rest and suddenly heard her scream. A zombie had stumbled toward her. She ran right into me. I shot the zombie in the head and took out a few more that the noise attracted. After that, I looked at her and sighed. You've been following me this whole time. How long are you going to keep this up? Just sit down and eat lunch with me. We sat on some grass and ate together. I asked her what she really wanted. She had been lucky so far, not many zombies around. But next time could be different. She looked at me and asked, does your offer still stand? You said you'd protect me and give me 3 meals a day. I laughed. Didn't you say you'd rather die than join me? She looked a little embarrassed but pressed on. So does it count or not? I shrugged and sent her a team request and a master-servant contract. Of course it counts. The team formed. The contract was signed. Now we could see each other's location, talk through voice chat, and share experience. We also couldn't hurt each other. The contract was even stricter. If I died, she died too. Only I could end it. I grinned at her. Dr. Xia, try calling me master. She gave me a dirty look and refused to say it. After lunch, we kept moving. I led us through buildings instead of the main streets because I had scouted ahead with a telescope. The roads were packed with zombies. Inside the buildings, the hallways were narrow, so zombies couldn't rush us all at once. My P92 held 15 rounds, and my aim still wasn't great. I could hit slow, close targets, but moving ones were tough. I told myself I needed to practice more. At least my bullets were unlimited. We moved carefully along the walls. I took out 3 zombies with 3 shots and waved Xianxi forward. She jogged up and asked how much farther we had to go. I told her to keep her voice down. There were more zombies in this building. We reached a door. I held my gun tight and told her to open it. Her face went pale. I think we should leave, she whispered. I frowned. Why was she losing her nerve now? I was losing patience. I told Xianxi to open the door or I would leave her behind. She went pale, gritted her teeth, closed her eyes, and charged straight at the door. I panicked. Was she trying to run into the zombies? I grabbed her and pulled her back, then stepped forward and fired into the room. 3 shots, 2 zombies down. We got inside and I shut the door behind us. While reloading bullets one by one into the magazine, I sat her down for a serious talk. I told her we were teammates, not me carrying dead weight. I was the captain, and when I gave an order, she needed to follow it. No more. I'm scared. Let's leave. In this world, her fancy education and doctor's title meant nothing. One moment of hesitation could get us both killed. She went quiet, then apologized and said she would listen from now on. I was satisfied. I pulled out a can of luncheon meat, 2 self-heating rice packs, and some fruit. In this world, that was a luxury meal. Her eyes went wide when she saw it. I told her we would stay the night here and try to leave the area tomorrow. After dark, zombies became much more active, sharper senses, more aggressive. Moving at night was suicide. She asked why we couldn't just stay in that small supermarket. I explained it to her. The supermarket had nothing left, too many people were finding it, and it was in the middle of the old city district where population density was insanely high. One day a massive zombie wave could break out, and we would have no way to escape. She pictured that and went pale. I could tell she finally understood why I made us leave. After eating, I lay down to rest immediately. Every minute of sleep mattered out here. Physical strength was everything. Xianxi laid down beside me. I fell asleep quickly. I had trained myself to sleep lightly, alert enough to react to danger, but still recovering energy. The next morning, my phone vibration woke me up. I checked for danger first, then opened my system mail. Today's unlimited supply was cold medicine. Actually very useful. Out here, people slept in the open and got sick easily. Without treatment, a simple cold could turn deadly. I woke up Xianxi and went to the balcony with my binoculars. The street looked calm, barely any zombies in sight. But I knew better than to trust that. We had learned the hard way on our first day walking. The zombies didn't love bright sunlight, but the moment they spotted living people, they came charging like crazy. We had barely escaped into an apartment building that time. Behind me, Xianqi was pouting and mumbling that I was a blockhead who didn't know how to be gentle. I smiled and told her that once we reached our destination, she could rest as long as she wanted. Her face turned a little red at that. I told Xianqi my plan. We were heading to the suburbs. The city was too crowded. Too many people meant too many zombies. I knew there was a villa district out there with low population density. If we could find a villa to use as a long-term base, life would be much better than hiding in a tiny supermarket. She pouted and said our life wasn't great anyway. I laughed and told her we were working towards something better. We traveled carefully all day and found a safe spot to sleep when night came. The next morning, I checked my system mail and my face dropped. Today's unlimited supply was cotton. Cotton. I couldn't eat it, couldn't drink it. What was I supposed to do with it? I was starting to think the system was messing with me. I had been hoping for medical supplies, something like alcohol or bandages, especially since I had a doctor on my team now. But no, cotton. I told Xianqi it was nothing and tried to move on. Dark clouds rolled in. Thunder rumbled and wind picked up. Bad weather was coming. Xianqi asked if we had an umbrella. I told her no, but I had plenty of cold medicine if we needed it. She said she wasn't worried about herself. She was worried that if I got sick, she would have to take care of me while zombies closed in. That made me smile. She was starting to care, even if she tried to hide it behind her sharp tongue. We finally reached the area near the villa district. I climbed into a watchtower and used binoculars to scout. After a long look, I went quiet. There were more zombies than I expected. Not impossible to deal with, but I needed a solid plan. Xianqi noticed my frown and asked if it was bad. I patted her hand and told her it was manageable. She suggested we could come back later when we were better prepared. I smiled and told her I never rush into danger without a plan. I promised her a villa, and I meant it. Then I got serious. I told her she needed to get used to this world. Even if one day I wasn't around, she should be able to survive on her own. She quickly told me not to say things like that. It was bad luck. Then she admitted quietly that she really did get scared around zombies. My heart softened. I told her I understood. Anyone would be scared. But this wasn't a game. If we died, it was real. I wanted her to become someone I could rely on. I patted her head gently and said this was the last time I would bring it up. From now on, it was up to her. She didn't pull away. She just stood there quietly, like a calm little kitten. I had my eyes on the biggest, most luxurious villa, the one with a north-south layout, right by the lake. Beautiful view. Even in an apocalypse, if I had the choice, I wasn't going to live somewhere ugly. I traded for some Molotov cocktails and 2 grenades on the platform. I also bought a crossbow for Xianqi so she could defend herself. I handed it to her and told her to stay close, follow my lead, and not shoot carelessly. She took it with firm eyes and promised she wouldn't slow me down. I believed her. Then I spent some time teaching her how to use the crossbow properly. Once I was sure she could handle it, I finally felt ready to move in. I told Xianqi it was time to move. Rain was coming, and I wanted us sleeping in that big villa tonight. She smiled and said she hoped there was a big bed waiting for us. We entered the villa area through a narrow grassy path behind the houses, the kind maintenance workers used. It was a gamble, but the main road would have been suicide. We got lucky. No zombies on the path. Then, right at the end of the trail, a zombie appeared out of nowhere. I was leading, so it was right in my face. No time to pull my gun. 2 arrows flew past my ear and slammed into the zombie's mouth. It dropped forward and fell right on top of me. I shoved it off and looked back at Xianqi. She was still holding her crossbow, frozen in shock. I gave her a thumbs up. Nice shot, Dr. Xia. She panicked and asked if I was okay. She said she had been terrified she might hit me instead. Hearing that, I broke into a cold sweat. Those arrows had been inches from my head. I almost got killed by my own teammate before the mission even started. Then I heard noise from the other side of the villa district. Another group of players was charging in from the front, fighting zombies with fire arrows and shouting orders. That was actually good for us. They would draw most of the zombies away. I grabbed Xianqi's hand, and we ran for our villa. A few zombies spotted us along the way. I threw a Molotov cocktail to block them, then tossed a grenade into the crowd. The explosion wiped out a bunch of them, and we made it to the lakeside villa safely. I used the Molotovs and grenade on purpose instead of my gun. Guns were too rare and valuable. I didn't want anyone knowing I had one. Inside the villa, several zombies were waiting. Xianqi and I opened fire together and cleared them out fast. Then a message popped up on my screen asking if I wanted to claim this shelter. I hit yes immediately. The system confirmed the villa was now ours. It could even be upgraded later with blueprints, and it would protect us from zombie waves and player attacks. I turned to Xianxi and smiled. This is our home now. She finally relaxed and smiled back. Having a safe place in a world full of zombies, that was a real luxury. I walked out onto the second-floor balcony and looked across the villa district. That other group had made it in, but they paid a heavy price. I could see they had lost a lot of people and supplies. Most of the zombies in the area had been drawn to their side, which worked out perfectly for us. Their leader, some guy named Jiang Kai, was apparently furious. His team had lost half their men and all their combat supplies because of bad information. They had charged in head-on thinking there would be few zombies. They cleared most of them out, sure, but the cost was brutal. Then lightning cracked across the sky and rain started pouring down. But it wasn't normal rain, it was acid rain. People in the chat channel were freaking out. Someone touched it, and it burned their hand. Others were still thinking about collecting it for drinking water, figuring boiled acid rain was better than nothing. I looked out at the storm from inside our villa and felt grateful we had made it in time. I looked out the window. The rain was pouring hard and showed no sign of stopping. People in the chat were complaining about the cold. Some were worried about freezing to death. Then Xianxi sneezed. She was sitting on the sofa, rubbing her arms. I asked if she was cold. She nodded and said the temperature had dropped too fast. Even I could feel the chill, and I had leveled up my body. She had it worse. I needed to find a way to keep us warm. I thought about making a fire, and then it hit me. Today's unlimited supply was cotton. The thing I had called useless that morning. Cotton could be stuffed into fabric to make blankets. I searched the trading platform for fabric and sewing supplies and told Xianxi to wait. I had a magic trick for her. When I pulled out the cotton and materials, her eyes went wide. She asked how I had cotton. I told her I traded for it and asked for her help sewing. She grinned and said she was good at that. With her medical training, she stitched the blankets together quickly. We made several of them. I pulled out hot food and warm coffee from my backpack. We sat together under the blankets, eating and drinking. Outside, the wind was howling and rain was hammering the villa. Other players were freezing. But in here, it felt like a weekend vacation. Xianxi snuggled into her blanket and whispered how comfortable she was. I leaned closer and asked where exactly it was comfortable. She felt my breath near her ear, turned red, and buried her face in the blanket, calling me stinky. I laughed and messed up her hair. I liked these moments. When we weren't fighting, I preferred to joke around and relax. If I stayed tense all the time, I wouldn't last long. Then she surprised me. She bit her lip, hesitated for a while, and asked if I wanted to come to her room tonight. My brain froze. I had been single my entire life. A beautiful girl was making the first move, and my mouth moved before my head could catch up. I blurted out, "No, women only slow me down when I draw my gun." She stared at me in shock. Then her face turned furious. She stood up, wrapped herself in a blanket, stomped upstairs, went into a room, and slammed the door. I stood there like an idiot. My brain finally started working again. What had I just done? Did I get kicked by a donkey? I tried to comfort myself by thinking about the dangerous situation in the villa area. Romance wasn't appropriate right now. But honestly, I was just mad at myself. To let off steam, I opened the chat channel. Everyone was complaining about the cold and the rain. Good. I was upset, so everyone else should be upset too. I took a screenshot of myself lying on a fancy sofa wrapped in a blanket and posted it in the chat. Why don't you guys have blankets? I thought everyone did. People lost their minds. Someone asked for my coordinates and promised not to beat me up. I laughed and listed a few extra blankets on the trading platform. But my price was steep. I only accepted combat supplies in return. The chat exploded with complaints. People called me a scammer. Someone said they would rather freeze and die than buy my blanket. They called for a boycott. Then someone quietly bought one. That person apologized to everyone and said the blanket was really warm. The chat turned on him instantly. I almost fell off the sofa laughing. I sold a few more blankets and got a nice pile of combat supplies. Then I listed some cold medicine and told the chat it was cheaper than the blankets. People grumbled, but they knew catching a cold out here could be deadly. One by one, they traded for the medicine, cursing me the whole time. The cold medicine sold out fast. Nobody wanted to fight zombies while sick. My backpack was now stuffed with battle supplies. crossbow arrows, bows, knives, hand axes, and even some grenades that people had traded away. I didn't expect anyone to give up grenades, but they did. People in the chat were still threatening me. One guy said he would scatter my ashes. Another told me to wait and see. I just smiled and replied, "I'll wait." Then I closed the chat and started organizing everything. I had Molotov cocktails, tin grenades, iron traps, and plenty of crossbow arrows. I realized I had enough firepower to match a whole team. As long as I had time to set up, I could handle most threats on my own. Just as I was about to rest, an ad popped up on the trading platform. A gold-level blueprint had appeared, a barrier wall. The first gold-level item on the entire platform. My heart jumped. This was exactly what I needed. I had been worrying about how to protect our villa from zombie attacks, and this blueprint was the perfect answer. I opened the listing immediately. It was being sold through an auction. Starting price, 1,000 essential supplies, with each bid going up by 50. That was insanely expensive. The chat channel went wild. People couldn't believe someone had found a gold-level item this early. Most people only had bronze-level stuff. Some thought it was a scam. Others were jealous and angry. But I wasn't the only one who wanted it. I could tell from the chatter that several big groups were preparing to bid. Somewhere in the city, a guy named Niu Ziqiang, supposedly the leader of the biggest group in the East Zone, had just taken over a villa area. People said he would definitely go after the blueprint. There was also a guy named Zhou Shujian, some rich young master type holed up in a signal station with a bunch of followers. He was sipping red wine and acting confident, sure that nobody could outbid him. And then there was Jiang Kai, the leader of that group in our own villa area. He wanted the blueprint too, but his team had burned through most of their supplies during their messy entrance. He was punching his coffee table in frustration. The seller was a guy named Qianbu Duo, sitting alone in a tree out in the wild with an empty backpack. He didn't want to sell the blueprint, but he had no food or water left. His only hope was that the bidding war would drive the price high enough to keep him alive for a while. The auction was about to start. Everyone was getting ready. And so was I. In the chat, people were debating who would win the auction. Some mentioned Niu Ziqiang and his big group in the East Zone. Others talked about Zhou Shujian, some rich kid from the South Zone who had already taken over a signal station. A few people brought up my number, 10,086, but most laughed at the idea. They said I was just one person with some blankets. No way I could compete with entire groups. The auction started. I entered the bidding interface and was surprised to see about a dozen buyers. Not as many as the chat made it seem. Most people couldn't actually afford to bid. The rules were simple. One supply unit equaled one bottle of water and a portion of food. Starting bid was 100 supplies, going up by 10 each time. The auctioneer would count to 3 at the end, and if nobody bid higher, the item was sold. I was buyer number 8. I didn't bid right away. I just watched. The price climbed fast, past 200, then past 250. Then buyer number 9 jumped straight to 300. People in the chat went crazy. 300 supplies was a massive amount of food and water. Turns out it was Niu Ziqiang. He even posted a threat in the auction chat, warning everyone that if they dared compete with him, he would tear down their house. But buyer number 5 didn't care. He bid 310. It was Zhou Shujian. He introduced himself calmly and said he wanted the blueprint too. The public chat exploded with fans cheering for him. The two of them went back and forth, trash-talking each other in the auction chat. I stayed quiet and watched the price climb. Eventually, the bidding slowed down and stopped at 350 supplies. Zhou Shujian was the highest bidder. Niu Ziqiang had gone silent. His team must have run out of supplies to offer. The auctioneer announced, buyer number 5 bids 350 essential supplies. Are there any other bidders? No one raised their paddle. The auctioneer started the countdown. Since there are no other bids, the first count, I sat there watching, thinking carefully about my next move. Zhou Shujian was already celebrating in his head. He thought nobody could beat him. Then I made my move. I bid 400 supplies. Just like that, 50 more than his offer. The whole chat went silent for a second, then exploded. Nobody knew who buyer number 8 was. People were calling me a hidden rich person. Some women in the chat were fighting over who would offer to be my partner. It was ridiculous. Zhou Shujian was furious. He bid 450. I didn't even blink. I raised it to 500. The chat went crazy again. People couldn't understand how anyone could have that many supplies this early in the game. They were guessing I had been transported from a food factory or a water plant. They had no idea about my system. Zhou Shujian's people started panicking. His men warned him they were running low. If he kept bidding, they wouldn't have enough to survive. But he was too proud to stop. He screamed at them and bid 550. I frowned a little. He did have a lot of resources, more than I expected, but it didn't matter. I had unlimited water. These numbers meant nothing to me. I raised my bid to 600. The entire channel went dead silent. 600 supplies. In less than a week since the apocalypse started. People couldn't believe it. What shocked them even more was that I never hesitated. Zhou Shujian paused before every bid. I didn't. I just kept going, like these supplies were pocket change. Zhou Shujian stared at his screen, furious but powerless. He wanted to keep going, but he was told he didn't have enough supplies left. He had no choice but to stop. The auctioneer announced my bid. No one else raised their paddle. 600 essential supplies, first count. 600 essential supplies, second count. 600 essential supplies, third count. The gavel dropped. I won. The gold-level barrier wall blueprint was mine. The auction ended as soon as I won. My number, 10,086, was announced to everyone. The chat exploded. Someone reminded the guy who had promised to eat zombie meat if I won the auction. People couldn't believe I had spent 600 supplies and probably had even more stored up. Some wanted to find me and become my follower. Meanwhile, the seller, Qianbu Duo, was laughing like a madman at all the supplies he received. He planned to hide somewhere and live off them for a long time. Smart guy. In this world, having too much could make you a target. I opened my mail and received the barrier wall blueprint. I checked the materials needed: wood, steel, cement, and water. I had unlimited water already, and the rest I bought quickly from the trading platform. I activated the blueprint. A massive wall shot up out of the ground around our villa, reaching the second floor. It was so thick I couldn't reach across it with my arms stretched out. Xianxi came running downstairs in surprise. She understood immediately. Our shelter had just become a fortress. But I couldn't relax. Everyone was getting stronger. More high-level supplies would show up soon. I needed to stay ahead. I told Xianxi I was going out alone to hunt zombies. I needed experience points, and I needed to improve my terrible aim. She nodded and told me to be careful. She said she would wait at home and practice with her crossbow. I put on a raincoat and headed toward a zombie gathering area outside our villa district. I had learned from the chat that a massive zombie horde in the neighboring district created a natural barrier between zones. That area was isolated, which meant fewer rival players, but lots of zombies to fight. After a long walk, the rain stopped. I climbed into a small residential building, took out 2 zombies with my pistol, and set up a shooting position on the second floor overlooking the street. The smell of rotting flesh was awful. I put on a mask. Then I started firing. At first my aim was bad, but there were so many zombies that even missed shots often hit something. I used this chance to practice properly. I set fires below to burn through groups of them while reloading from above. My experience bar shot up fast. I leveled up twice, all the way to level 4. Strength 20, agility 9. I could feel the difference in my body. I climbed down using a ladder and kept pushing forward along the hillside opposite the villa area, clearing out lone zombies and small groups. I found a few bronze-level supply boxes along the way. Nothing amazing, but everything helped. At midday, I found a safe rooftop, ate lunch, and kept going. By sunset, I headed back to the villa. After 2 level-ups, my stamina was completely different. I ran the whole way back at a steady pace and didn't even feel tired or out of breath. Near the villa gate, a few zombies spotted me and charged. I shook out my legs and grinned. Perfect warm-up. I wanted to test my improved body. I rushed straight at them, taking them down one by one. No need to be reckless, but I wanted to see just how much stronger I had become. I shouted a movie line and flying kicked the first zombie. It went flying and tumbled across the ground. I surprised myself. I didn't expect to be this strong. Zombies are tougher than humans, and I had just sent one rolling with a single kick. If that had been a person, I didn't want to think about it. More zombies came at me. I pulled out a silver-level sword I had picked up earlier. No fancy moves, just raw strength. I cut through them like vegetables. When the area was clear, I shook the blood off the blade and looked around. That other group who charged into the villa district had already cleared out most of the zombies for us. I figured more players would eventually hear about this place and show up. But I wasn't too worried. I had the barrier wall now. My biggest concern was the group already living nearby. I wasn't sure my wall could stop them if they really tried. I needed to deal with them before anyone else arrived. I went back to the villa using the facial recognition on the wall. Xianxi was waiting at the door, looking me up and down for injuries. I held her hand and told her I was fine. I even found a rare item outside. Then I shared some experience points with her. She jumped straight to level 3. Her stats showed strength 7 and agility 13. High agility, but her strength was much lower than mine. I wasn't sure if that was a gender difference or something else. She told me she had been watching my experience bar go up from home and was so nervous she could barely breathe. I messed with her hair and told her not to worry. She asked why I always played with her hair. I hadn't even realized I did it that much. It was like petting a cat, kind of addictive. I teased her about it, and she blushed and muttered something about how she had already given me a chance before and I didn't take it. I looked at her. She was beautiful, standing there in fitted clothes with that shy, tempting expression. My heart started racing. I pulled her into a hug. We kissed. All the feelings I had been holding back came rushing out at once. I asked if she wanted to take a shower. She whispered that she had already washed up and was ready. And then, right at that moment, a system message popped up. Several unidentified players are approaching the outer wall of your base. It was like getting hit with cold water. I froze and snapped back to reality instantly. Xianxi felt the change and let go. She asked what was wrong. I told her unknown survivors were heading toward our wall. She wanted to come with me. I told her no. Go to the second floor with the crossbow and cover me from the balcony. She nodded and ran upstairs. I reloaded my pistol and muttered to myself as I opened the door. Because of these people, my moment was ruined. If they didn't know what was good for them, I wouldn't hold back. I stood behind the wall and yelled out, "Stop right there. Don't come any closer to my shelter, or I won't be polite." A woman's sweet voice called out from the other side of the wall. She said her name was Xiaoqian, sent by the neighboring team's leader to talk. I frowned. I hadn't expected them to come to me first. I told her I wasn't interested in teaming up, but she kept talking, showed me her empty backpack to prove she wasn't a threat. I thought about it, then opened the gate just enough to let her squeeze through, keeping my gun ready. She was a woman with a nice figure, but an ordinary face. Her clothes were torn. I couldn't tell if that was from survival or on purpose. After spending days with Xianxi, my standards had gone up. I wasn't impressed. She noticed the barrier wall right away and figured out I was player 10086. That was exactly what I had been worried about. Once the wall went up, anyone nearby would connect me to the auction. If Jiang Kai's team spread my identity on the chat channel, I could become a target for everyone. I brought her inside and told Xianxi to stay on the second floor balcony with the crossbow, watching for any suspicious movement from her teammates. I offered Xiaoqian some fried rice and orange juice. She could barely hide how hungry she was. After she ate, I got straight to the point. I asked what made her team think they could recruit me. She talked about their 8-man team, how they had cleared the zombie horde, how they would grow stronger. I cut her off. I told her that if I could spend thousands of supplies building walls and still have enough to feed a stranger luxury food, I obviously didn't need her team. She went quiet. I handed her 20 sets of supplies as a neighborly gift and told her to leave. Then she tried a different approach. She sat close to me, rubbed against my arm, and offered to keep me company. Her hand started drifting somewhere it shouldn't. I grabbed it firmly and told her I wasn't interested. If she kept pushing, she wouldn't like what happened next.